the basketball operations and general manager of the Golden State Warriors. Well played, Stephen Langford. About time you cracked the mic. Bob Myers back on the roads for the executive show as he is every other Tuesday. Bob, good morning, man. Hopefully you're doing all right. Sorry for making you wait, especially during a day like this where you guys have a chance to get back to the Western Conference Finals. But before we get to all that, how is Steve Kerr doing? We know he tested positive for COVID. He was out for game number 4. He's out tonight. How is Steve doing? How's his spirits right now as Steve Kerr tries to get healthy here?
He's all right. He wants to be coaching. We were kind of had a moment of levity when he told me after he tested positive, and at that night, I told him, I said, you just don't want to coach in the playoffs, do you? Because he's missed, he missed those other games back in, I don't know, was that 18 or 17?
16, 17, yeah. No, 17, yeah.
Yeah, and so I tapped Mike Brown on the shoulder, and I said, just don't lose. You haven't lost yet. So it was Mike's 12-0. But Steve's doing all right. I mean, he's not in danger of anything. He doesn't feel 100% great, but he's fine, just like a lot of people. Hopefully they get COVID are. I mean, I think it's a lot safer now to get it with all the vaccinations and everything, but hopefully we'll get him back soon.
Yeah. And then obviously Mike Brown takes over for him. Mike was named head coach of the Sacramento Kings. There was a sequence in that game where Jordan Poole checks in and just fires up a running left-hander and airballs it. Draymond's just screaming at him, and he's giving him the business, the old leadership stuff on the court. And then they go to, this is when Kerr was coaching, game 3, game 4, whatever it was, and Mike Brown was the assistant. And they're going to commercial, and the TV shows Mike Brown sticking his arm around Jordan Poole and talking to the young man as they go to break. And then Jordan Poole comes back out, and boom, he just catches fire. The leadership this guy displays for some of these younger players and the mentorship that he provides, he's a great dude. We've talked to him a million times. You guys are going to miss him on the bench, aren't you?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, he's fantastic. He is... he's got equity in our team, too. You can't just do that on day one with guys. You have to earn that. You have to get to know them. And Mike's really good at that. And like you said, you guys have spoken to him. He's got a great way of communicating. He's got really good leadership skills. And those people are hard to replace. He's got a ton of experience in the NBA, head coach, assistant coach. I mean, he's coached LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, coached in the finals when he was in Cleveland. So, that's a hard thing to replace. So we will miss him. We'll miss his kind of acumen. We'll miss his personality. And, not easy to walk in there and as an assistant, people joke the hardest move in sports is those kind of 12 inches from assistant coach or head coach. And it's true because, especially when you have no time to prepare for it. Mike didn't show up that night with any inclination he was going to be coaching the team. And then what happened with Draymond that morning? I mean, Draymond was really shook up that whole day. And may still be, which would be totally understandable about the loss of his friend. So just a lot of things going on that night that, for people listening or watching, there were people too. And you can't, we talk about switches and, once the lights go on, stuff like that. Yeah, we try. And like everybody else, when you go to work, you leave whatever else at home. But there's a lot of things going on that night. And I think you saw it in the way we played. It was just a awkward, kind of clunky game that thankfully at the end we found a way.
No doubt you guys did find a way. And, on the way to a title, and I'm not saying you guys are going to win the title. You're 5 wins away from going to the NBA Finals. A lot of work to do, and it's a long way away. And I know you guys aren't looking ahead, but there's going to be clunky games, especially against a team like Memphis that is physical. But when they go back to Game 2 with the play that happened 2 minutes and 52 seconds into Game 2, and that's Dylan Brooks with I believe, a cheap shot on Gary Payton II. I thought it was malicious. I thought 1 game suspension. Should have probably been longer here. But number one, how's Gary Payton II doing? Is there a chance he could be back by the conference finals or the NBA finals? And 2, what did you think of the foul personally?
Yeah, look, I don't think anybody's really trying to hurt each other. I have to take people at their word for that. It's emotional. I'm at these games in Memphis. I'm here now. Not to defend anybody's actions like that, but I like what he said when he says he wished it wouldn't have happened. And I'll take that on its face and appreciate that. But it's too bad for Gary, mostly, is what I think about, rather than focusing on the other side of it. I just feel bad for Gary. He's playing great. He's starting for us. I think we're going to reevaluate him in another couple of weeks and see if there's a chance he can come back. And the first couple of days, that moment in the locker room, I've been in the locker room, unfortunately, with a lot of guys that get bad news. And when the doctor walked by that night or that day, I guess it was I forget what to say. Yeah, I don't know if it was night. I guess it was night or day. I don't remember. But anyways, he shakes his head, kind of at me, like meaning that's bad news on the X-ray. And then, Gary's sitting there, and I said, "Have you told him?" And he hadn't been told. So, I've been back in some locker rooms where bad news is delivered. And, of course, we all, as people, don't want to hear anything bad. But when you're an athlete, and this is kind of the moment you work your whole career for, and then to hear, you're done for at least a little while, that's tough. And there's not really any great words, and the game's still going on. And it's just a brutal message to have to say to a young player that's worked as hard as he has. But then you have to get over it, and he is. He's training. He's doing everything he can to stay in shape for the possibility that if we keep playing, he could come back.
Bob, it feels like this entire series, it's been all this other stuff. Like the play is one part of it, but it's like
right.
The Draymond foul and the technical, and then obviously the Dylan Brooks situation, and then we got Jordan Poole and John Moran. We're questioning all these 2-minute reports and everything. I'm not necessarily asking about all the sideshow stuff. I'm asking about how the players and the coaching staff responds to media questions. Do you guys go over this with these guys before you go out there? Because anything you say nowadays feels like it can be parsed, it can be quoted or misquoted and put out there into the ethos and create fodder or bulletin board material. Are you guys aware as an organization, and do you talk to your guys when things like this arise?
It depends, Joe. I mean, Raymond does right when they go to the podium and gives them an idea of what's circulating.
Gotcha.
They're going to ask you about this. They're going to ask you about that. But we don't control. You can't control, especially nowadays. I suppose maybe you're used to, but these guys are going to say what they got to say. But they're also in the media all the time, and they're kind of accustomed to it. But the tricky part is when you're up there right after a game, because that's the most emotional time, and even let's just say when you're coaching the kids teams, you suffer a bad loss, somebody gets hurt, and then they throw a microphone in your face 10 minutes later, you might say something that you regret just because you're emotional. And that's okay to be emotional. But when people read what you say, they don't factor that in often. They don't factor in like this guy hadn't cooled off or he was pretty raw in that moment. That's the tricky part. It's not. When most guys are calm because they've done so much media, they're good at it, and they understand what they might say and how it'll be thrown out and aggregated into the world, especially now more than ever. But when guys are emotional, they sometimes say stuff, or even comes out wrong. As you guys do on the radio all the time, I'm sure there's times where you go, I didn't mean to say it that way.
All the time.
You're talking all the time.
Once an hour, Bob.
Bob, all the time. Well, now in a lot of these leagues, they have a 24-hour rule. You can't contact the coach if you're a parent or whatever or a guardian of a child for 24 hours because they want you to calm down and cool down. You're right. These guys, Jordan Poole watching the play, someone handed him a phone and he's watching. I'm like, man, 22 years old. And any little thing you say is just getting, he did it. He didn't do it. It's kind of wild.
Yeah. I mean, look, that's the thing that I have found, guys, and now in life is, the fact that we're all, if you're somebody like them, not as much me, you're really basically walking around in a world where you've got a video camera or a recorder on you all the time. I mean, it's not just on a podium. What if they make a misstep anywhere and somebody throws that out there in the world? That's going to get traction too, or now you've got these super slow-mo things that show angles. You're kind of like, that's not really an accurate portrayal. And so it's they're under a microscope like they never have been before. I don't know if it can get any worse. I suppose it can. And that's why these guys get a little shielded, though. The public, which I love, our fans are the best. They make sports what it is. And there's an insatiable appetite for that type of content, which is fine. It drives ratings. It drives payroll, drives all these things, but sometimes these guys are kind of like, I need some space, and they don't have any, and it's hard. It's tough.
Right.
Some of them are young, 22, like you said. You throw a video in front of a kid, like what?
Right.
Not a lot of preparation for that, so it's a different world.
No doubt about that. Bob Myers here on the Morning Roast on 95.7 The Game. Bob, you speak about the media and all the fan base and everything and the pressures of performing on a night in and night out basis. take us back to the offseason, because Joe and I did a lot of shows here about whether or not you guys should trade this player and that player and this player or picks. And think about where you guys were before the season, not knowing when Klay Thompson was going to get back, not knowing what type of Jordan Poole you were going to get. He was improving late last year, averaging 15 points per game since that G League stint. But who would have envisioned him becoming the star he is right now? He's dynamic, and what he's done in these playoffs has been phenomenal. You guys are on the brink of the Western Conference Finals after a 2-year hiatus from the playoffs. When you take a step back and have some perspective here on everything that's happened this season, you kind of just say, man, what a season. We're 5 wins away from the NBA Finals.
Yeah, I should probably do a little bit of that more than I do. You're so in it when you're in it. I'm here in Memphis, we're playing tonight. You don't try not to think too far. I mean, we're not even halfway to a championship. So
no doubt.
It seems like we've been playing for a long time, and that's what you learn when you have played as deep as we have. I talk about the 5 years in the finals. It seems to last forever, and that's exactly what you want. But when you're in it, and you're flying to Memphis and flying back and going, when you're with the team, it's like you're, it feels even longer. Because you guys, if you were with on the road trip where the listeners were, there's a fatigue to it too, but it's exactly where you want to be. But for me in the front office, most of the time the truth is you do your best to put together something that you think has a chance to win. And sometimes you get it right, sometimes you don't. But when you look back at this year, we thought, and even the Wiggins stuff, and you got to go way back to when Durant left to see some of the decisions. And again, I'm not saying we did everything right, but it starts there. And then the way Wiggins is playing, he has been fantastic.
Oh, yes, it's been awesome.
That was a 3 years ago decision, and then you say, okay, well, what are we going to get with that? Oh, we're going to get a pick. All right, well, what's that pick going to be? Oh, that's Kuminga. He's playing. He's been starting. He doesn't play huge minutes, but he's been helping us. And then you look at Gary Payton. You talk about bringing him in on a 10-day, and I'm not every team. Memphis has done a fantastic job of this too. So has the Celtics. So is the Grizzlies. All the teams that are playing now, Phoenix. Those front offices have been tremendous too. You got to get a little lucky with injuries and stay healthy. But for people that work in a front office, what's most difficult is you have to kind of look way ahead and hope that at some point, when it all comes to fruition, that you have a chance to win. And Mike Brown said it. We miss Iguodala. I think people might not quite understand how he could be helping us. If we keep playing as far as we want to play, we'll miss him. So, injury, Wiseman, that vertical lob threat, we need that. And so we don't get it all perfectly right, but yeah, I mean, I think for the most part, Bonta, this year. Yeah, I mean, you gotta look and say some things went well, and you gotta be proud of that for our front office. And I think we got some things right.
Well, what if I would have told you, Bob, before the season? Hey, Draymond Green's going to miss 36 games. Steph's going to miss 18 games. You get Klay Thompson back January 9th. James Wiseman won't play a second of basketball with the big league team. He played in the G League, obviously. Iguodala's only going to play about 20-plus games, and we'll see where he's at. I'll ask you about that in a second. But, I mean, what if I had told you that before the season? Do you think you guys would have won 53 games with all those situations there and all the different lineups and all the different injuries? I mean, it's been a hell of a ride.
This 53, you guys know it was. We're great. We suck. We're okay.
We had the panic meter, Bob. We had a panic meter out for you guys.
I mean, I don't blame you guys. I mean, it probably made for good radio, but we put our fans through a ride, and we're still going. But never been through a season like this. We had those years where we were on the ascent and so talented that we just figured we had to win the championship, and we got a few of them. But now this season, I mean, coming out of the gates. Oh, they're great, and then the injuries, and then Klay comes back, and then Draymond goes out. This was an emotionally taxing one.
Absolutely.
Happy where we are now, and that you lean on Steve and the coaches and the culture and the players that have done it before. But the injuries are the worst part because you mentioned Bonta not having had Draymond and this lineup with Poole and Wiggins and Thompson ever play in the regular season. That sucked because I'd like to see that. We wanted to see that. And it's fine we get to see it now, but we'd like to have had some time. That's the team we thought we built.
Yeah.
And for anybody doing what I do and we do is you want to at least see it. I mean, sometimes it doesn't work, sometimes it does, but to never get to see it, that was the most frustrating part for us was we tried to build this thing, and we don't know if it works or not. We think it would.
Right.
We still got to find out more. So anyways, it's, this season's been, I don't know. I guess we're in a good spot right now. So
Bob, it's been really good for business for us. Okay, so thank you. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
And the Draymond Green podcast as well. Thanks to Day for the podcast.
Yes, but I want to get into the game the other night specifically. Like you were talking about Wiggins and how good he's been. The hustle, the contesting, guarding guys the full length of the court. Just the all-out effort and energy. Charlie Hustle, like he's my dad's favorite player right now. Kevon Looney, just an unsung hero. Yep. Absolutely outstanding. Otto Porter finally hitting threes and he's knocking them down. He's been playing hard all playoffs, and then your closer comes in Steph Curry and just dominates that fourth quarter, hitting big-time free throws. It was a New England Patriot-esque kind of a culture, championship medal kind of a win. What did you think after winning that game the other night?
It's a good way of saying it. I mean, you lean on your culture. You lean on finding a way to win. I mean, whether it's Draymond's block, Curry getting to the free throw line. I mean, that's what teams that have won before do. And you mentioned one of the most winningest teams ever, the Patriots. You just figure it out. And, of course, we want it to look like it did on Saturday, where it was every shot was going in. Our effective field goal percentage was 70 or 80. It was crazy. But that's not reality. You'd like to have some games like that. But you know how it is, you guys being around sports, those wins where it just is hard and nothing's going right. Like I said, there's some emotion going into it. Those ones are good for you, too, because you have to figure it out. When it's easy and shots are going in, everybody can feel good and play well. But when the other is happening, where you start out 0 for 15, you're looking around going, maybe it's not our night. And that inevitably starts creeping in. But to flip that kind of we're going to win switch, which Curry and Draymond, all these guys do, because they just know how to do it. And it's hard to quantify that skill. To know that, you guys play, there's certain players you played against, teams you played against. You know when you're on one of those teams and you know when you're not.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
You know when you're playing against one of those teams and you go, God, why can't we get over the hump against these guys?
Right.
And they just figure it out, even when nothing's going their way. And those are culture wins in some capacity. But you have to earn those things. They don't just happen. You don't just say, hey, we got great culture.
Yep.
That comes over time, success, failure, adversity. And we have some guys that have been through a lot.
Hey, every championship team has a game like that. You look at the history in the NBA. Heck, you're on the UCLA basketball team in '95. Second round against Missouri, nothing was going your way. You need to tie a set, you need to go coast to coast to get to the Sweet 16. There's always a game like that during a championship run, and hopefully this is a championship run. Before we let you go, Bob, what's the status with Andre Iguodala? You mentioned him. We all miss him. He's a stabilizer with that second unit. Is there a chance he'll be back for the conference finals? If you guys make it there.
Yeah, he's trying right now. He's basically, same thing, trying to get back with Gary. Same deal. I think Andre's going to be evaluated later this week to see kind of where he's at. That doesn't mean he's playing in a week or anything like that, but we're going to look at it again. He's a pro. I mean, Andre, he's so prideful. He wants to be playing. I mean, he didn't show up. He didn't sign again to miss the playoffs. I mean, I hate to say it, but the regular season for Andre, he's a postseason guy.
Yep.
So not to be available, it's really tough. But I like what Mike Brown said about him in the post game. His value is still very real for us, and you can see him talking to Jordan all the time and Kuminga. You guys watch.
Yep.
If you see, I sit behind our bench. I mean, I don't know if you can see it on TV or that stuff matters. So we miss him, but look, I'd love to have him back out there, and we'll have more information later this week.
I've heard a rumor since Mike Brown's seat's going to be vacant. Maybe you guys bring on the front row sitting, wine sipping lady who tried to calm down Draymond. Any thoughts of bringing her into the coaching staff to kind of settle things down when it gets a little heated on the court?
Well, you know what? Honestly, Joe, this is why I wanted to go watch you coach that game at Town Boys School. Just to know if you would be a guy, that we could consider.
Don't do this, Bob.
But, I'm worried about, some people said, you get a little hot, you get a little emotional. I wanted to see you coach. I still got to figure it out.
Oh, no.
We're trying to put together a list of candidates.
Oh, no.
So, yeah. We'll see. I don't know what we're going to do.
I guarantee you, Shasky, if you invited him on the bench to go to St. Warriors, he would be in full Warriors warm-up gear. He would wear no suit, no polo. He'd be in the warm-ups alongside the team members trying to coach with the clipboard. He'd wear the Warriors pullover or the Warriors warm-ups.
The coaches look sharp on the bench.
if he was one of our the best part would be post game watching the huge overreaction. Yeah. What are we gonna do? We're done. Hang on, man. Slow down. Game 42.
You imagine Tim Kawakami peppering Joe Shasky? Hey, it'd be great for business. You talk about being great for business and sports radio. That would be amazing. I need all that. Kendra Andrews and Carrotsburg asking Joe Shasky about a 40-point loss. It'd be great.
Oh my goodness.
Anyway, man.
You thought Kelly Oubre Jr. was fun at a podium. Wait till you see me.
God.
Oh, man.
Bob, good luck tonight.
Let's close this out.
Hey, we hope to close it out because trust me, we all want Friday night off. Even you, we all want to be with the families Friday, get a little extra rest. So hopefully you guys handle business tonight. If not, we'll see you Friday at Chase Center. But anyway, a game away from the conference finals, a hell of a season that's not even over yet. Hopefully not close to being over. Bob, we always thank you for the time.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me.
Anytime. Bob Myers, president of basketball operations and GM of the Golden State Warriors. He is one of the best. He's one of the best in the business.
Well.
He does know you. I mean, it would be a disaster.